Okay, so now I want to ask you. I don't want to abuse too much of your time, but I do want to ask you, like, is there anything you're working on that you're thinking about that's kind of like out of the box that you want to think out loud with us, and maybe even if people have some resources or some things to think about or reactions for you that you want to put out there.
Yeah, no, it's good. I always have writing things going on, and like I'm trying to, play with a lot of ideas. I'm working, at IBR this past year, I gave a paper on wrath and revelation, and my background's philosophy, so I was using a language game approach from Ludwig Wittgenstein in assessing the concept of wrath and the language of wrath and revelation. So I'm prepping that to send off to a journal or something, and I don't know, do something with it. And but one and there will probably be. I'm working on I'm in conversation with the publisher to do a follow-up book to the End of the World book. It'll look a little differently. It'll be a little differently, but I want to approach it. I want to answer some different questions, and
Okay, so it's not like going to be the beginning of the new heavens, new earth, or something like that.
no, it's going to be. I want it. Yeah, how do I put it? It's not. So this book was like, okay, here are the top 7 questions we're all asking. Let me give you some answers. This is going to be more of an artistic approach to living life, in light of the eschaton.
Yeah.
So it's like bridging the gap. It's kind of like what I said about waiting and living, that kind of thing. So that's going to be my approach. I'm also super interested in, and I'm starting I don't know how long this will last, a pretty big research project on so I'm super interested in religious experience and paranormal experiences that people have, and I talked to a lot of people who have really weird experiences, right? I'm working on a project with that, and I'm going to try to tackle that subject with some of my own training and background in hermeneutics and philosophy, and of course biblical studies too. So it'll be a fun thing. I'm really excited about it, I think, and and we'll see what happens. But yeah,
So
I
kind of
think
a
that's it.
biblical theology of how to interpret weird things that happen to people.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking earlier about Dale Allison's book Encountering Mystery, published by Eerdmans, and he's a professor at Princeton Seminary, and I encourage everybody to go read this book. He's a well-known scholar, a highly reputable scholar, and he does a lot of fun work. And he wrote this book about his own experiences that he and his family have had, and just looking at some of the open source material with respect to things like near-death experiences, and I mean the whole gamut: miracles, prayer, that kind of thing, visions, angels, and he's had some pretty remarkable experiences. And I always appreciated when people like him talk about this topic, because I know a lot of people who have either had experiences. I mean, I've had an experience, and I know people who've had experiences, and you don't want to talk about weird things because you don't want to seem like a kook, right?
Right. And
And
it also like
yeah,
is in that subgenre. It feels like it's in the subgenre of telling people about your dreams. It's like
yeah, yeah.
sometimes it seems inherently uninteresting unless you were there, you know?
Unless you were, well, that's the thing. I mean, like a lot of people have experiences that cannot be proven, but they're
Right.
very real to them.
Right.
And so Allison talks about a pastoral imperative that he says we need to be talking about this because, he has this line, I forget the exact quote. He's like, people think we're kooks, people think, but he's like, some of us, right? We have a right mind, we are employed to use our mind on a daily basis, and we know exactly what it is we experienced, and so don't ridicule us, right, for just reporting these things. And we have to remember the way science works, and this has been interesting in my research. The way science works is that sometimes, the truth can lie within a myth, right? I forgot the guy's name. His last name's Newman. He wrote a fun little article on gorillas, and one thing I didn't know was that the existence of gorillas wasn't confirmed by Western scholars or Western scientists until like the 19th century, and which is fascinating. And so, he talks about how, though, I think his line is the truth often starts within the realm of the myth or something like that. And so, but it's important because prior to the confirmation of gorillas, there were rumors and myths and stories and tales of humanoid monsters in the jungles of certain parts of Africa that lived in huts, and they would steal your women, and they can slay elephants. The whole myth, right? And so you would dismiss this, right? When you confirmed that there were actually humanoid type creatures that we now call gorillas, you can see that many of the rumors were false. They don't live in huts. They don't steal women, and they don't slay elephants.
That we know.
They're actually that we know of, right? Maybe at night, but they're actually kind of shy. They're actually shy creatures, is what it comes out. But there was truth in the stories. There was truth in the myth, right? And so, as my understanding, I think meteorites were the same way. Like, I think Craig Keener mentions this in his book, the 2-volume set called Miracles. And basically, scientists shun the idea that rocks fall from the sky. Everybody knows rocks don't fall from the sky. Lo and behold, I guess the people that were reporting this were right. Rocks do fall from the sky, and we call them meteorites. And so I'm really interested in the question of science. And so, like, and scientific revolutions, and like the Kuhnian revolution, like Thomas Kuhn, and his, what's the name of his book? Structures of Scientific Revolution. Yeah. I remember reading it in undergrad and just taken by, and I recently reread it. And I think that, like, we need to understand that science is constantly going through paradigm shifts, and there are often, with every paradigm shift, there are always pushbacks. There are always the naysayers, even within the scientific community, but that's just kind of part of the process. So, long story short, Dale Allison made a comment that I resonate with. He said, look, I just came to the conclusion that the world is much stranger than my science teacher told me. And so, you can't, when you look at this culturally, people are interested in all sorts of paranormal things. And now I'm a confessional scholar, so I believe the stuff I write about. I believe in Christ and all sorts of things. And so my whole aim is pastoral in this whole regard. I just want to help people know that, you can be an Orthodox Christian, conservative Christian, and still make sense of your experiences. And what I'm doing in this project is looking at one subset of what we might call paranormal experiences. And so I'm going to look at a certain type of experiences. But anyway, that's a long-winded answer to your question.
But the next book will be Bigfoot, right? Cryptozoology.
Yeah, I might do Bigfoot. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, Bigfoot, which, it's kind of like the unicorn. If you, to a child, describe what a unicorn is, it's a completely reasonable animal. I mean,
why not?
Yeah, I mean, there's a narwhal, right? If you describe a narwhal to somebody, it's... So even something like Bigfoot, I'm like, I don't think he actually exists, but there's nothing actually that unusual. And I've even heard on the evolutionary science stuff I worked on, like, it is possible that there is some kind of strand of hominid that managed to stay around for a long time, longer than we would have maybe thought. So,
or stayed around a long time, not here today, but it went extinct 500 years ago. So yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the octopus is such an interesting animal in this regard too, because isn't it the case? I'm not up on zoology or anything, but like I think people who study that part of the world would say that an octopus, actually, their evolutionary line kind of went on its own little thing. Yeah, it's not even part of the traditional sort of lines. I think that's correct, but I don't know. I watched that. Was it Netflix? The My Octopus Teacher. Which, I
didn't see that.
Oh, you should go see it. It sounds so dumb, but when you watch it, like I loved it. Like, I think I watched it twice. But to me, and I'm a hermeneutics guy, and by hermeneutics I mean not how do you just interpret the Bible, but just how do you understand anything? How do you understand anything?
Art, newspaper articles, etc.
The whole game. It's a subset of philosophy, the philosophy of understanding. It's not epistemology per se. It's the philosophy of understanding. And so I say all that because I felt like that documentary was kind of a course on hermeneutics, and you just have to watch it to know what I mean by that. But it's pretty interesting.
Well, Dr. Matthew Halsted, thank you very much for guiding us on this rip-roaring discussion about the end of times and the beginning of the new heavens, new earth, and cryptozoology.
Thanks, man. Drew, you rock. It's always fun to talk.